Hey guys, it's Chris. Going to do this is actually a video response to Thomas the 13th Wolfman's video series that he had done, which is a retrospective of some of the old forms of movie media that we had. In this case, which was part 3, was the VHS era, the video era, and the plethora of video stores that we had back then. As currently we're seeing the death knell of the video store as the biggest conglomerate in the industry, Blockbuster, closes its doors. But like Thomas and of course Winter King, 1987, Sean, myself, we're all kind of well, let's not mince words. We're old guys. We were fortunate enough to be around for that video era coming in. Prior to that, of course, you probably heard is the only way of seeing a movie if you missed it in a major theater was hopefully you had a smaller theater that might have done it as a second run, or in some cases you just kind of waited until it came out on television. I know that I used to wait for the TV guide to come in, and I would go through and I would make sure I circled every movie that I possibly could find that interested me, and hopefully I would be able to be in front of the TV to see that. When the dawn of the videotape, and of course there were two forms, VHS and Beta. Beta had the better sound quality, Beta had the better picture quality, but Beta had one thing that was not on its side, and that was the adult pornography market. Beta didn't want anything to do with it, VHS had no problem with it, and this just kind of opened a whole other avenue where people didn't have to go to little theaters. They could actually watch a movie in the comfort of their own home. And that really was the death knell for itself for Beta, because they weren't going to go, and they just killed them. So not the first company to make a bad decision that pretty much crippled the company. But just to give you an idea, these were pretty much the standard of the back in the day for your VHS tapes. When they opted to go with just a cardboard sleeve over the tape rather than a clamshell or a box. Beta was a lot smaller. As you can see, the difference in the size of them, but they were pretty much identical in every way. They had, of course, they had the other forms where you would have some people put them in cases and cut these boxes up so they would fit into a larger, heavier duty container, because it really depended on your shop. Some cases they would have just the box itself. In a plastic box, and they would leave, of course, the cover in front of it. Now, one of the ones that I had gone to, this was their preferred method, was they had the box and the tape behind it. If you came in, and and this is the worst part, you'd see this really cool box cover, but the tape is gone. You can't rent it, so it kind of was a teaser. You could only stare at the box and hope you could see whatever it was. Others would have the box out here. They would sometimes have a styrofoam cube that went in here that fit this to keep the shape of it, and you would bring it up and they would have the tapes behind the counter. This method obviously didn't hold up the box too well, which is why they ended up doing a lot of the cut method, which most vintage video people just makes them shiver with the fright at the thought of actually damaging them. You know, and some of them, they actually, you know, a lot of these boxes, you can see they actually were, they didn't just slide out, they were actually full package boxes. They were sealed, especially a lot of the early media. And a lot of times they would go ahead and they would plant all sorts of stickers all over these things to get your interest in them. Depending on the companies, they would actually put out other versions of them. Like this is a kind of the precursor to maybe a digipack, but yeah, basically the videotape came out, and in some cases, packing stuff. But you would get these videotapes, and they were presented in these type of boxes. Most often than not, they wouldn't let you take them home because they didn't want you having the entire package, or they would go with what was called the clamshell package. Now, back in this period, you know, it was all independent buyers, mom and pop shops. In my town, I know there was one that my family went to called Video Show Place that was kind of the closest one to us. And further on, another place, a liquor store. The gentleman that had the liquor store there, he actually won a ton of money on the lottery, and he invested it in in becoming a video store. This place, I think it was the far better one as far as horror videos, the quality of what he had. And I just remember going to these places and seeing some of the most outlandish box art, and it became a competition with a lot of these companies. Smaller companies would buy films from small independents and put them out, and sometimes they'd put them out under different titles, and you'd be bamboozled, and you'd be renting the same movie. Sometimes the boxes wouldn't even have artwork that coincided with the friggin' film. But that was the draw, of course, was the artwork. I remember seeing stuff as like, you know, Lunch Meat, which is an incredible looking cover. The Deadly Spawn was one that was where I got introduced to that, and I remember waiting weeks, going in all the time, waiting for someone to bring this tape back because it was out all the time, and it just drove me nuts. I got to rent it once, I brought it back, and went back to rent it again, out again. Yeah, so, but it was just, no longer did you have to wait for whatever it was on TV. You could go in there and pick and choose, but if it just became, when you're a little kid too, and you have your, you know, few dollars that you're able to rent a tape because you're with your parents, or they let you pick something out. I remember going to Video Show Place, and you know, my mother told me to pick something out, and you know, I'd have like 3 things in my hand, 5 or 6 others that I really want, and I couldn't even choose. And you know, that was pretty much the method back then. With the mom and pops, they also had to, you know, you saw actually a lot of the original video posters. A lot of these things, what you saw like on Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is a video poster. It's not, but it's very similar to the one sheets that were in the theaters. They weren't really throw-togethers. They still had some of the beautiful artwork. And you know, if you got in good, you were able to get a lot of these things from them as well. They would come up with different ideas for promotions. I went to school with a kid who was really, really good at sculpting, and he loved special effects. And back in the mid-'80s, he actually designed for the release of Aliens on VHS for the local video store, he did an egg for them. And it stood probably about, 3.5 feet tall or so. This kid actually went on to work for Stan Winston and is still out on the left coast, working in the, I think actually he does molds now more than anything, but he was a prop guy for a number of years for Stan Winston and worked on a bunch of films with him. But this local guy commissioned him to put together a piece, and it was because his friend worked there behind the counter. This opened the gates for a lot of companies. You had, my God, I can't even remember half of them, but if you guys are able to find back issues of Horror Hound magazine, they do a great retrospective on called The Video Invasion, and they go company by company, Unicorn, Wizard, Media, some companies you just never have heard of, but this was a way for them to get into this business, and they bought films and released them, and they put them out in these incredible covers, and that was your way of figuring out what you wanted to rent. Now, unfortunately, when we started to phase out from VHS as the DVD started to come into play, it seems to be there was a time. It looked like there was a time where no one cared as much about the art. They were putting together. We were in the '90s where everything was floating head movie posters, so they started to do all these little cut and paste and Photoshop jobs on these covers that are horrible. Pick up a copy of the first release of Happy Birthday to Me. Horrible cover, absolutely horrible. And they still do it. Take a look at your recent Blu-ray disc of Near Dark. Thing's horrible. So it's tough to get the really good old art that you used to be able to get on posters back in the day. I mean, just here's a throwaway crap movie, still not even out on DVD. But look at that artwork. It's just sensational. And if that doesn't want you to make you see the movie, and then probably very well be disappointed in the movie, what will? So that was pretty much during that period. VHS players, like folks bought a VHS player, a top-loading one, chunk, slide in, pop it down, and a brand new console TV. And those console TVs lasted a long, long time. Price paid, $450 a piece. Yep, $450 for the TV and $450 for the VHS player. Of course, years later, if anyone used to see them randomly in maybe a Best Buy or something like that, you could buy a VHS player for under $50. But back then, they were a big investment. Then, of course, the VHS, you could tape stuff too off TV, and believe me, I did plenty of that. Being a shrewd little kid, I made sure I put it on EP, not thinking that the quality was going to die in, I don't know, a couple viewings. But I had to tape all my Godzilla movies, all this. Hell, MTV came up. I was taping friggin' music videos. I probably even still have one of my first VHS tapes. Probably if I pop it in now, it's just going to be like a snow screen because it's so blurred on EP. But that's what we did. We taped everything and anything that we could, and saved it. And for the longest time, that was my only way of having a copy of The Incredible Melting Man. But that was pretty much it. I don't want to keep going on and on because, holy crap, Teresa and I did a retrospective on Rock and Shock, and that lasted almost 30 minutes. You guys have to listen to us for 30 minutes. We don't even want to listen to each other for 30 minutes. So I'm going to cut it for now, but Thomas, thanks a lot for making me realize how old I really am. But it's great to go back and remember all this stuff. My video collection was pretty good at one time, and then it just got so bad to lug these things around. I got rid of pretty much most of them, and I regret it big time. And like anything else, it seems like I'm going back and buying back my childhood if I can find them at a good enough price. But just go on eBay and you can see what people are paying for some of these things. Or even on YouTube, there are a lot of guys out there that have insane collections of vintage videos, big boxes. They are today the curators of time gone by. And who knows, years from now we might be doing the same thing. You guys will be going, I remember the day DVDs came out. We had these PVDs that played on these hand console things. You didn't have a chip that you put on the side of your head and have the video go on in your head. Anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and unfortunately my better half is not on here right now, but stay tuned because she's got more of her Alphabet of the Damned series coming up. Thanks a lot.